Have you ever tried building something with Legos or PVC pipes at home and realized the project just wouldn't come together without the right connector piece? That's basically the same idea behind fittings in an irrigation system. It's sort of like a puzzle, and most irrigation techs have a collection of fittings in their truck. Fittings don't get much attention compared to pumps or sprinklers, but without them, nothing connects. They're what make sure the pipes turn the right direction, change sizes when needed, and stay sealed under pressure. And here's something interesting. Did you know there are fittings designed not just to connect, but to actually move with your system and absorb stress? Those little details can make a huge difference in whether your system lasts for years or ends up with constant leaks and repairs. I'm Dr. DeBusk, and in this section, we're going to break down the different types of fittings, how they're used, and why it's important to pick the right one for the job. By the end, you'll see how something as small as a coupler, elbow, or union can completely affect the reliability and efficiency of an irrigation system. Let's start with the basics. A coupler is the simplest of all fittings. It just connects two pipes in a straight line. An elbow lets us change direction, usually at 90 or 45 degrees, but bigger systems might use other angles. Without elbows, irrigation would be nothing but straight lines. A T splits the flow, letting us branch off in a new direction. This is how we feed water to multiple zones from the same pipe. Sometimes pipes and fittings don't match up. That's where these connectors come in. A reducer bushing shrinks the outlet size, and it can also change the connection type, like from solvent-weld to threaded. An adapter works like a translator, converting male to female or threaded to slip. And then we have unions. These are brilliant because they allow you to take the connection apart and reassemble it without cutting the pipe. That's a lifesaver for repairs or when replacing a valve or pump. Finally, a few fittings that handle special situations. A cap seals off the end of a pipe. A plug does the same thing, but instead of going over the pipe, it inserts into an outlet. A side outlet elbow connects three pipes with one popping out of the top of a corner, a handy way to squeeze extra connections into a tight space. And a cross connects four pipes at right angles. Not super common, but you'll see them in some layouts. When we talk about fittings, it's not just about the shape, the material matters just as much. Polyvinyl chloride, or PVC, is by far the most common. Almost every irrigation system you'll see uses Schedule 40 PVC. There are also Schedule 80 fittings, which are thicker, stronger, and used where higher pressures are expected. Chlorinated polyvinyl chloride, or CPVC, is sized differently, copper tubing size, and it mainly shows up if your irrigation system is tied directly into a CPVC plumbing line from the building. Copper fittings are also tied to plumbing systems. You'll find them when connecting to pumps, backflow preventers, or even as risers in shrub beds. Ductile iron, or DI, shows up on larger irrigation systems, usually 3-inch pipe and bigger. It's tough and can handle the stress on main lines. And then there's galvanized iron, GI fittings. These are common in older irrigation systems, but still used today when you need the strength of metal, especially in high stress points. So while PVC is the everyday go-to, every one of these materials has its place depending on the system design and the job it needs to do. Now let's look at outlet configurations, basically how fittings connect to each other. The female fitting receives the pipe or male fitting. Think of it as the opening that something goes into. Females can be threaded or smooth sockets. The male fitting is the opposite. It inserts into the female fitting. Males can be threaded or what we call spigot ends. A socket, also called a slip connection, is the female side of a fitting. The pipe goes into it. Sockets can be smooth, where you glue, solder, or use a gasket, or they can be threaded. A spigot is the male side that slides into a socket. It can be glued, soldered, threaded, or compressed depending on the material. So in short, female receives, male inserts, sockets are the female opening, and spigots are the male ends that go inside. Once you understand those four terms, reading fitting diagrams or instructions becomes a lot less confusing. Fittings don't just differ in shape and size, they also connect in different ways. Here are the main outlet connection types you'll see in irrigation. Solvent-weld cement, often just called PVC glue, is used on PVC and CPVC. It melts the pipe and fitting together into one solid joint. Solder is only for copper fittings, where heat bonds the pipe to the fitting. Threads are screw-style connections, male into female. These are common and easy to take apart if needed. Insert fittings have barbs that grip the inside of the polyethylene pipe. The clamp goes over the outside to hold it tight. Gaskets are rubber seals inside fittings that create a flexible, watertight joint. Compression fittings also use a gasket, but add a clamping ring for extra grip. Push-fit fittings are super convenient. You just push the pipe in and the O-ring seals it while a metal ring locks it in place. Finally, barb fittings are used with swing pipe, also called funny pipe. These don't need clamps because the barbs hold tight on their own. Each method has its place, and part of being a good irrigation tech is knowing which connection type is best for the job. I'll go into more detail on each later in the presentation. When it comes to fittings, size matters, and so does how the size is measured. CTS, or copper tube size, is the sizing system used for copper, CPVC, or bronze fittings. If your irrigation system ties into building plumbing, you may see CTS fittings used. IPS, or iron pipe size, is the standard sizing for PVC and galvanized pipe. This is what you'll find most often in irrigation systems. For irrigation work, the most common fitting sizes range from 1/2 inch to up to 6 inches. In really large systems, especially agricultural or commercial installs, you might even see sizes bigger than that. So when you hear someone say a fitting is CTS or IPS, they're not just talking about the diameter, they're talking about the sizing system the pipe and the fitting are made to match. And that makes all the difference when you're trying to get the right parts to fit together. The table on the slide compares the different material types and connection methods used for typical fittings in irrigation systems, including both iron pipe size, IPS, and copper tubing size, CTS fittings. When you look at fittings in catalogs or on packaging, you'll notice they're written in a kind of shorthand. Once you learn the pattern, it's pretty straightforward. First, if both ends are the same size and type, the dimension is written once. For example, a 1-inch TT coupler means both ends are threaded, both are 1 inch. If the fitting has different sizes, all the dimensions are listed. A good example is a 1 inch by 3/4 inch by 1/2 inch SSS reducing T. The letters tell you the outlet type. In this case, S stands for slip or socket. Since the outlets are different sizes, they all get listed. For T's, the straight through sizes go first and the side outlet is listed last. For fittings that mix outlet types, like an elbow with one slip end and one threaded end, the letters show that too. A 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch ST street elbow means one side is slip, the other side threaded. So the rule of thumb, sizes first, outlet types second, and the order matches the layout of the fitting. Once you get the hang of this, you can read fitting descriptions quickly without confusion. Now let's talk about the most common type of fitting connection you'll run into, solvent-weld PVC fittings, also known as glued fittings. These are mainly Schedule 40 PVC, though there are Schedule 80 versions when you need extra strength. They're generally used on fittings up to 2.5 inches. Anything bigger than that usually calls for gasketed fittings instead. The way they work is pretty simple. The fitting has at least one female socket, which is slightly tapered. When you apply the cement and push the pipe in, that taper creates a tight seal. The cement itself isn't just glue, it actually softens or melts the plastic a little so the pipe and fitting fuse together. The process is always the same. First prime or clean the surfaces, then apply cement to both the fitting and the pipe. While it's still wet, insert the pipe with a quarter turn until it bottoms out at the stop. That quarter turn helps spread the cement evenly. You'll notice a small bead of cement squeeze out around the edge. Wipe that off so it doesn't weaken the pipe. When done right, a solvent-weld joint is strong, watertight, and built to last. I'll give more step-by-step instructions in the repairing pipe and fittings video. Next up are threaded PVC fittings. These can have male or female threads, and some female fittings are reinforced with a stainless steel band so they don't crack under pressure. Threaded fittings always need to be sealed properly, or you'll end up with leaks. The best method is Teflon tape. It's easy to apply, it stays in place, and unlike paste, it doesn't break down or leave little blobs that could clog a valve. I'll give more instructions on how to do this in the repairing pipe and fittings video. The second option is Teflon paste, but you have to be careful. Only pure Teflon paste should be used. Other paste can damage valve internals or backflow preventers. Paste is usually preferred when you're sealing metal to metal connections. One important note, not every threaded connection in an irrigation system needs sealing. Barb fittings on swing joints, prefabricated swing joints, and PE street Ls are examples where you don't need to use tape or paste. And finally, not all threads are created equal. The fine threads on spray nozzles and rotors are different from the coarse pipe threads on fittings, valves, or backflow devices. That's something you'll want to pay attention to in the field. Insert PVC fittings are used with polyethylene or PE pipe. Instead of the pipe sliding into the fitting goes into the pipe. These fittings have ridges or barbs that grip the inside of the pipe so they don't pull out. To hold them tight against water pressure, you clamp the pipe down, and the standard practice is to double clamp each side. There are two main clamp types, ear clamps, which are crimped with a tool, and screw clamps, also called worm drive clamps, which you tighten down with a screwdriver. Both squeeze the pipe into the barbs to create a solid seal. Insert fittings come in the usual shapes, couplers, elbows, T's, and adapters. But when it comes to connecting sprinklers to PE pipe, don't use these. Instead, use tapping saddles. These clamp around the pipe and provide an outlet for a sprinkler connection. Some are self-tapping, which means they cut their own hole, while others require a tool to cut the hole after the saddle is attached. Tapping saddles usually have either a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch threaded outlet or a barbed outlet that connects to swing pipe, also called funny pipe. These make sprinkler installation much easier and prevent weakening the pipe with random drilled holes. Next, let's look at gasketed PVC fittings. These are sometimes called O-ring or push-on fittings. Instead of glue, they use a thick rubber gasket inside the socket to seal the joint. You just push the pipe into the fitting and the gasket makes it watertight. One big advantage is that the pipe can actually move slightly inside the fitting. That flex works like a shock absorber, protecting the pipe when water pressure surges as the system turns on and off. That makes gasketed fittings especially useful on long, straight runs of pipe. But when gasketed fittings are used for changes in direction, like elbows, T's, or Y's, you can't rely on the gasket alone. The water pressure can actually push those joints apart. That's why you need to use thrust blocks or mechanical restraints to lock those connections in place. So in short, gasketed fittings are great for larger pipe sizes and straight runs, but they need extra support anytime the flow of water is turning a corner. Push fit fittings are the newer option you'll see, and they make repairs really quick. These fittings don't use cement at all. Instead, you push the pipe into the fitting, and inside there's an O-ring that seals it and a stainless steel ring that locks it in place. The big advantage is how easy they are to use. If you need to remove them, there's a special tool that releases the locking ring so you can pull the pipe back out. Because they're so simple, push fit fittings are mostly used for repairs or specialty situations, not for building a whole system. The flexible repair couplers are especially handy when you need to replace a section of pipe without much digging. Most brands are only made in 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch sizes, and most are rated for around 150 psi. A few manufacturers make versions that go up to 4 inches, but those often require thrust blocks. Bottom line, push fit fittings are fast, convenient, and perfect for repairs. Just make sure you're using the right size and checking the pressure rating for your brand. PVC may be the most common, but metal fittings still have an important role in irrigation. First is copper. These are mostly used when your irrigation system ties directly into a building's plumbing. You'll see copper fittings on connections to pumps, backflow prevention devices, or as risers in shrub beds. Most are soldered, but threaded and push-fit options also exist. Next is galvanized iron, or GI fittings. You'll often find these in older irrigation systems, but they're still used in new installs where you need the extra strength of a metal fitting. For example, when connecting PVC pipe to a pump or backflow device. Then we have ductile iron, DI fittings. These are gasketed fittings designed for strength. They're usually used on large main lines, 4 inches and up. where the stress and water pressure are too much for PVC fittings alone. And finally, brass push-fit fittings. These work just like PVC push-fits we talked about earlier, but the body is brass instead of plastic. They're mainly plumbing fittings, but you'll sometimes see them used to connect irrigation to a water supply line from a building. So while PVC dominates most of the system, metal fittings are still critical in places where strength, durability, or plumbing connections are needed. Let's talk about repair fittings. The first type is the telescopic coupler, often called a slip fix. These are designed to repair a broken PVC pipe. One end is fixed, the other end can slide out like a telescope, so you can connect into the pipe without cutting an exact length. They're made from 1/2 inch to 6 inch sizes, and some models even come with push-fit ends. The second type is the flexible repair coupler. Instead of sliding, these use a short length of flexible pipe between two couplers. They can span about a 16-inch repair length, which makes them great when you don't have perfect alignment. They come in solvent-weld or push-fit versions. Both of these fittings are lifesavers in the field because they make repairs faster and cleaner than cutting and gluing multiple pieces of PVC. Now let's look at some specialty fittings. Manifold fittings are designed for efficiency. They let you connect multiple 1-inch zone valves together in a valve box without cutting and gluing a bunch of small pipe pieces. Some are even designed to assemble without glue using O-rings. Unions are one of the most useful fittings in irrigation. Think of them as a coupler with a built-in disconnect. A union is made of 2 halves, an O-ring and a threaded compression ring. When tightened, the ring pulls the 2 halves together and compresses the O-ring to make a watertight seal. The beauty of a union is that you can take it apart without cutting pipe. That means if you need to service a pump, replace a backflow preventer, or swap out a solenoid valve, you just unscrew the union and pull the component out. Then you can put it back together just as easily. That makes unions a go-to fitting anytime you're connecting to equipment that might need maintenance. Compression fittings use a wide gasket and compression ring to grip the outside of the pipe. They're often used for repairs, and you'll find them in couplers, service tees, and male adapters from 1/2 inch up to 6 inches. Pipe nipples are short lengths of pipe that are pre-threaded on one or both ends. If it's threaded one end, it's called a toe nipple. If it's threaded on both ends, it's a TSE nipple. Most of the time you'll see them in Schedule 40 PVC, which is light gray, or Schedule 80 PVC, which is dark gray. But be careful, not all dark gray nipples are actually Schedule 80. You'll also find galvanized and brass versions in certain installs. Pipe nipples are super versatile. They're commonly used as stationary risers for sprinklers in shrub beds or gardens. They're also used whenever you need a short, durable connector, like between valves, pumps, or backflow devices. They come in sizes from 1/2 inch up to 4 inches, with lengths from close, which is the shortest length possible, with full threads up to about 12 inches and sometimes longer for smaller diameters. So while they may just look like little chunks of pipe, pipe nipples are workhorses in an irrigation system. Sprinklers can't just be glued directly onto lateral pipe. They need flexibility. That's where swing joints come in. A swing joint lets the sprinkler move slightly, so if a mower tire rolls over it or something pushes it sideways, it doesn't snap the pipe below. There are a few different ways to build a swing joint. The most common is swing pipe with barbed elbows, often called funny pipe. It's flexible tubing that connects the sprinkler to the lateral line with barbed fittings. No clamps are needed because the barbs hold securely. Another option is flex pipe. This looks like PVC but is flexible and connects with standard Schedule 40 fittings using solvent-weld cement. You can also make swing joints from PVC nipples with street L's. A street L is a 90-degree elbow with a female thread on one side and a male thread on the other. The threaded joints are sealed with Teflon tape, which allows a little movement. And finally, there are pre-assembled swing joints you can buy ready to go. They come in different sizes and lengths, and larger versions are often built from Schedule 40 or 80 PVC. All of these methods serve the same purpose, keeping sprinklers safe and reducing costly breaks in the system. Now let's talk about stationary risers, sometimes called fixed risers. These are used in places like shrub beds, vegetable gardens, or nurseries where sprinklers need to sit above the plants instead of popping up and down. A few common examples you'll see in the field are a simple PVC nipple riser with a shrub adapter and spray nozzle, a PVC pipe and fitting assembly with an adapter and nozzle, a copper riser with a brass shrub adapter and nozzle, or an impact rotor mounted on a PVC pipe nipple. Each version does the same job, holding the sprinkler above the plants for good coverage. The choice usually comes down to durability, aesthetics, or matching existing materials in the system. To wrap this section up, remember that fittings are more than just little connectors. They're what hold an irrigation system together and make it work the way it's supposed to. Most systems rely on PVC fittings, but you'll still find metal ones in places where strength or plumbing tie-ins are needed. Outlet configurations and connection types may seem like a lot of jargon at first, but once you understand the basics, female versus male, slip versus spigot, solvent-weld versus threaded, it all starts to click. And don't forget about specialty fittings. Things like unions, repair couplers, and swing joints make the difference between a system that's a nightmare to fix and one that can be serviced in minutes. So the big takeaway, choosing the right fitting isn't just about making pieces fit. It's about building a system that's dependable, efficient, and long-lasting.